running toward tomorrow. Jasmine Brooks had always been the careful one. The planner. The girl who color-coded her calendar and never missed a deadline. But tonight, she was sprinting through O'Hare International Airport with mascara streaking down her cheeks and her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. The overhead announcements blurred together as she dodged travelers and rolling suitcases. Her phone buzzed in her pocket with another text from Tyler. She didn't need to read it. After 3 years together, she knew exactly what it would say. More excuses. More empty promises. More reasons why he needed time to figure himself out. Well, she had given him all the time he would ever get. 2 hours ago, she had walked into their shared apartment to find him packing a bag. Not to leave permanently, he had explained. Just to stay at his friend's place for a while. To think. To breathe. To discover what he really wanted. The answer was clear enough. He didn't want her. So Jasmine had opened her laptop, found the cheapest last-minute flight anywhere, and booked it without thinking twice. San Francisco. A city she had always wanted to visit but never had the courage to explore alone. Tonight, courage was all she had left. The last available seat. The gate agent looked exhausted as Jasmine stumbled up to the counter, breathless and frantic. "Please tell me I didn't miss it," Jasmine gasped, shoving her phone forward to display her mobile boarding pass. The woman glanced at the screen, then at the jetway door. "You're the last one." "Literally. We were about to close the door. Go, quickly." Jasmine didn't need to be told twice. She rushed down the jetway, her small rolling suitcase bouncing behind her. The flight attendant at the aircraft door gave her a knowing smile as she hurried past. Row 17. Window seat. Her sanctuary for the next 4 hours. She shoved her bag into the overhead compartment with more force than necessary, trying to channel her anger into something productive. When she finally dropped into her seat, she let out a long, shaky breath. The middle seat was empty. Small mercies. She pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the ground crew move around below. Maybe this was crazy. Maybe she should have stayed home, worked through her feelings like a rational adult. But rationality had kept her in a dying relationship for 6 months too long. Tonight, she was listening to her gut. The man in the aisle seat. "Excuse me. I think you're in my row." The voice was warm, polite, and entirely unexpected. Jasmine looked up to find a man standing in the aisle, holding a leather messenger bag and wearing a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than her rent. He was handsome in an understated way. Dark hair with just a touch of gray at the temples. Strong jawline. Kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he offered a small smile. "Oh. Sorry." Jasmine pulled her legs back to let him pass, suddenly very aware of her puffy eyes and disheveled appearance. He settled into the aisle seat with practiced ease, stowing his bag under the seat in front of him. For a moment, they sat in silence as the flight attendants began their safety demonstration. Jasmine tried to focus on anything other than the tears threatening to spill over again. She had cried enough today. She was done crying over someone who didn't choose her. First time to San Francisco? She glanced over, surprised. The man was looking at her with genuine curiosity, not the invasive nosiness of a stranger trying to pass time. "Yes," she admitted. "Spontaneous trip. The best kind." He extended his hand across the empty middle seat. "I'm Cameron Wright. Jasmine Brooks." His handshake was firm but gentle. Professional yet personal. "Well, Jasmine Brooks, you picked a good city for spontaneous adventures." Breaking down the walls. As the plane taxied toward the runway, Jasmine felt the weight of the day pressing down on her chest. She had been holding it together through sheer willpower, but something about sitting next to a complete stranger made her defenses crumble. A single tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. She quickly wiped it away, but Cameron had already noticed. Instead of looking away awkwardly like most people would, he simply said, "Rough day?" Jasmine let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "You could say that. I've had a few of those myself." He didn't push for details, didn't offer empty platitudes. Just acknowledged her pain as real and valid. The plane lifted off, and Jasmine watched Chicago disappear below them, the city lights twinkling like scattered diamonds. Somewhere down there was the apartment she had called home. The life she had built. The future she had imagined. All of it felt like a previous lifetime now. "I left someone today," she heard herself say. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "Or maybe he left me. I'm not entirely sure anymore." Cameron turned slightly in his seat to face her better. "How long were you together?" 3 years. We lived together for 2. Jasmine twisted her hands in her lap. "I thought we were building something. Turns out I was the only one with blueprints." "Then he didn't deserve you." The certainty in his voice made her look up. "You don't even know me. I know that anyone who had you and let you go is a fool." Cameron's expression was serious, sincere. "Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Sounds like today was your lucky day." Despite everything, Jasmine felt a smile tug at her lips. That's one way to look at it. It's the only way to look at it. He leaned back in his seat, his shoulder just inches from hers. "You're free now. No more wondering if he'll choose you. No more settling for someone who can't see your worth. You get to start over." The unexpected connection. The flight attendant came by with drinks. Cameron ordered whiskey neat. Jasmine asked for red wine, something she never drank but tonight felt appropriate. As the cabin lights dimmed and other passengers settled in for the flight, Jasmine found herself talking to Cameron in a way she hadn't talked to anyone in months. Maybe it was the anonymity of being 30,000 feet in the air. Maybe it was the exhaustion making her honest. Maybe it was just him. He listened like listening was an art form. Asked questions that showed he was truly paying attention. Shared pieces of his own story without making it about himself. "So what do you do, Cameron, right?" Jasmine asked, sipping her wine. "I invest in tech companies. Help startups get off the ground. Occasionally build something myself when I get inspired." He said it so casually, like it was nothing remarkable. "That sounds important." He shrugged. "It pays well. But important? That's debatable. What about you?" "I'm a graphic designer. Freelance, mostly. I create brand identities for small businesses." Jasmine felt herself relaxing for the first time all day. "It's not glamorous, but I love helping people bring their visions to life. That sounds more important than what I do." Cameron's smile was genuine. "You're creating something meaningful. I just shuffle money around and hope for good returns." They talked through the first hour of the flight. Then the second. Jasmine learned that Cameron had built his first company at 23 and sold it at 28 for more money than she could imagine. That he traveled constantly but rarely felt at home anywhere. That success hadn't filled the loneliness he carried. Cameron learned that Jasmine had given up a corporate design job to pursue freelancing because she wanted creative freedom. That she loved teaching weekend art classes to kids. That she had spent 3 years loving someone who only loved her when it was convenient. "Can I tell you something?" Cameron said as they flew over the Rockies, the mountains barely visible in the darkness below. "Sure. I haven't had a conversation this real in longer than I care to admit." He turned to look at her fully, and Jasmine felt her breath catch. "Most people either want something from me or they're intimidated by what I have. But you're just talking to me like I'm a person." "You are a person," Jasmine said softly. "I know. But not everyone sees it that way." There was something in his eyes. Something vulnerable and honest that made Jasmine's heart skip. This wasn't just small talk anymore. This was a connection, unexpected and undeniable. "I'm glad I caught this flight," she whispered. Cameron reached across the space between them, his fingers brushing against hers on the armrest. The touch was light, tentative, asking permission. Jasmine didn't pull away. "So am I," he said. And in that moment, 35,000 feet above the earth, Jasmine felt something shift. The pain of her breakup was still there, but it felt smaller now. Less consuming. Because sitting next to her was proof that endings could lead to unexpected beginnings. The plane flew on through the night sky, carrying them both towards something neither of them had been looking for but both desperately needed. A chance to start again, confessions in the dark. The cabin had grown quiet around them. Most passengers were sleeping or watching movies with headphones on, cocooned in their own worlds. But Jasmine and Cameron existed in a bubble of their own making, where time moved differently and strangers became something more. Cameron ordered another whiskey. Jasmine switched to water, wanting to stay present for every moment of this unexpected conversation. "Can I ask you something personal?" Cameron's voice was low, meant only for her. "After everything I've already told you, I think we're past formalities." Jasmine replied with a small smile. He chuckled softly. "Fair point. I'm wondering what made you stay so long if you knew it wasn't right." The question cut deeper than Jasmine expected. She stared at her water bottle, watching condensation drip down the plastic. "Fear, I think. Fear of starting over. Fear of being alone. Fear that maybe I was the problem and the next person would leave too." "You weren't the problem. How can you be so sure?" Cameron leaned closer, and Jasmine could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive that suited him perfectly. "Because problems don't inspire the kind of passion I see in you when you talk about your art. Problems don't light up when describing how they teach kids to paint. Problems don't have the courage to book a last-minute flight to a city they've never visited just to escape the pain." Jasmine felt heat rise to her cheeks. "You barely know me." "I know enough." His eyes held hers, intense and unwavering. "I know you're brave even when you feel broken. I know you're kind even when someone hurt you. I know that in 3 hours, you've made me feel more alive than I have in 3 years." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Cameron, I just got out of a relationship. Like, literally today." "I know." He didn't look away. "I'm not asking for anything. I'm just being honest about what I feel. The weight of success." Jasmine took a breath, trying to steady herself. The attraction between them was undeniable, electric in a way that both thrilled and terrified her. But she needed to understand him better, needed to know if this connection was real or just a beautiful distraction from her pain. "Tell me about your life," she said. "The real version, not the highlight reel." Cameron sat back, considering. "The real version isn't as impressive as people think. Try me." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that made him look younger, more vulnerable. "I built my first company in my garage. Everyone said I was crazy, that the market wasn't ready. But I believed in the idea so much that I worked 18-hour days for 2 years straight. No social life. No relationships. Just me and my code and endless cups of coffee. And it worked. It worked." Cameron's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I sold it for $30 million when I was 28. Suddenly everyone wanted to be my friend. Women who wouldn't have looked at me twice were calling me handsome. Investors who rejected me were begging for meetings. Family members I hadn't heard from in years needed loans." Jasmine heard the bitterness underneath his words. "That must have been lonely. Lonely doesn't even begin to cover it." He looked out the window at the darkness beyond. "I've dated a lot since then. Beautiful women. Intelligent women. But every single one was dating the money, not me. They loved the private jets and the fancy restaurants and the luxury vacations. But when I wanted to stay home and watch movies or talk about something real, they got bored. So you stopped trying? I stopped hoping, Cameron corrected gently. There's a difference. I still go through the motions. Still attend charity galas and business dinners with someone beautiful on my arm. But I stopped hoping any of them would see me as anything more than a bank account. Jasmine reached out without thinking, placing her hand over his. That's heartbreaking. He looked down at their joined hands, then back up at her face. You want to know the strangest thing? What? I've spent more on first dates than most people spend on their weddings. Helicopter rides over the city. Private concerts. Michelin star restaurants. And not one of those dates felt as real as sitting here with you in economy class, drinking mediocre wine and sharing peanuts. Vulnerable truths. The honesty in his words made Jasmine's chest tighten. She understood now why this connection felt so different, so intense. They were both people who had been unseen by those who claimed to love them. Both carrying wounds that ran deeper than anyone realized. My ex used to say I was too much, Jasmine found herself confessing. Too emotional. Too passionate about my work. Too invested in my students. He wanted me to be more chill, more easygoing. But that's not who I am. Good, Cameron said firmly. The world has enough chill, easygoing people. It needs more women who are unapologetically passionate about what they love. He made me feel like I needed to apologize for caring. He was intimidated by your fire. Cameron's thumb traced small circles on the back of her hand, a gesture so intimate it made her shiver. Weak men always are. They want someone they can dim because they're too insecure to let their partner shine. Jasmine blinked back tears, but these were different from the ones she had cried earlier. These tears came from being truly seen for the first time in years. Why are you single, Cameron? Really? He was quiet for a long moment. Because I haven't met someone who makes me want to try again. Until tonight. The air between them grew thick with unspoken possibilities. Jasmine knew she should pull back, should protect her already fragile heart. But something about Cameron made her want to be brave. This is crazy, she whispered. We're strangers on a plane. Are we though? Cameron's eyes searched hers. I feel like I know you better than people I've known for years. Is that crazy too? Probably. Good. His smile was slow, genuine, and devastatingly attractive. I'm tired of playing it safe. Safe hasn't gotten me anything worth keeping. Turbulence and trust. The plane hit a patch of rough air, shaking them both from the intensity of the moment. The seatbelt sign dinged on, and the pilot's voice crackled through the speakers announcing turbulence ahead. Jasmine gripped the armrest instinctively. She had never been a nervous flyer, but something about the sudden jolt made her pulse spike. Cameron noticed immediately. Hey, you okay? Fine. Just not a fan of the bumpy parts. Another jolt, stronger this time. Jasmine's knuckles turned white on the armrest. Without hesitation, Cameron covered her hand with both of his. Look at me, Jasmine. She did, finding calm in his steady gaze. It's just air pockets. The plane is designed for this. We're completely safe. His voice was soothing, confident. Focus on my voice, not the movement. Tell me something, Jasmine said, needing the distraction. Anything. Okay. Cameron kept his hands wrapped around hers, grounding her. When I sold my company, the first thing I bought wasn't a fancy car or a mansion. It was a plane ticket to Peru. I spent 3 months hiking through the Andes, staying in tiny villages, eating street food, and remembering what it felt like to be just another person in the world. Really? Really. Best 3 months of my life. No one knew who I was or what I had done. They just saw me as Cameron, the American guy who was terrible at Spanish and couldn't handle spicy food. He smiled at the memory. I met this old woman in Cusco who ran a small cafe. She taught me that wealth isn't measured in money. It's measured in connections. In moments that take your breath away. In conversations that change how you see the world. The turbulence continued, but Jasmine barely noticed anymore. She was lost in Cameron's story, in the way his eyes lit up when he talked about something meaningful. She sounds wise. She was. She told me I was searching for something I already had inside me. That no amount of money would fill the emptiness if I didn't first learn to value myself beyond my bank account. Cameron's expression grew serious. I've been searching ever since for someone who values me the same way. For what I am, not what I have. And have you found it? He looked at her like she was the answer to a question he had been asking his entire adult life. I think I might be looking at her right now. The invitation. The turbulence passed, but neither of them moved apart. Cameron kept holding Jasmine's hand, and she kept letting him, both of them aware that something significant was happening between them. The flight attendant's voice announced they would be landing in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. That was all the time they had left in this suspended reality where the outside world didn't exist. Jasmine, Cameron said softly, urgently. I don't want this to end when we land. Her heart raced. What are you saying? I'm saying have dinner with me tonight. Let me show you San Francisco. Let me prove that this connection is as real as it feels. Cameron, I don't even have a hotel yet. I literally booked this flight 2 hours ago without any plan. Then stay at my place. I have a guest house that's completely separate from the main house. You'd have total privacy. He must have seen the hesitation on her face because he quickly added, no expectations. No pressure. Just a safe place to land while you figure out your next step. That's too much. You don't even know me. I know enough to trust my instincts. And every instinct I have is telling me that meeting you tonight wasn't random chance. It was exactly what we both needed. Jasmine wanted to say yes. Every fiber of her being was screaming yes. But the logical part of her brain, the part that had been hurt and betrayed, whispered caution. What if this is just rebound feelings? What if I'm just running from one man to another? Cameron cupped her face gently with his free hand, his touch sending electricity through her entire body. Then we'll figure it out together. No rush. No demands. Just two people seeing where this goes. But Jasmine, I haven't felt this alive in years. Please don't make me go back to my empty house and wonder what might have been. She looked into his eyes and saw vulnerability there. Real, raw vulnerability from a man who probably rarely showed this side of himself. Okay, she breathed. Dinner. Let's start with dinner. The smile that broke across Cameron's face was radiant, transforming him from handsome to absolutely stunning. Yeah. Landing in a new world. As the plane began its descent into San Francisco, Jasmine watched the city lights spread out below them like scattered jewels. Somewhere down there was her new reality. A city she didn't know. A man she had just met. A life she was building one brave decision at a time. Cameron hadn't let go of her hand. She didn't want him to. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For saying yes. For being honest. For making me believe in connection again. Jasmine squeezed his hand. Thank you for seeing me. The real me, not the version I've been trying to be for someone else. The wheels touched down smoothly, and the passengers around them began gathering their belongings. But Jasmine and Cameron sat still for a moment longer, neither wanting to break the spell. Ready? He finally asked. As ready as I'll ever be. They stood together, and Cameron retrieved her bag from the overhead compartment with easy strength. As they walked up the jetway side by side, Jasmine felt her phone buzz with another text from Tyler. She glanced at it briefly, then put the phone back in her pocket without responding. That chapter was closed. A new one was just beginning. The city awaits. San Francisco International Airport buzzed with life even at this late hour. Travelers rushed past with purpose while others stood in clusters saying goodbyes or welcoming loved ones home. Jasmine walked alongside Cameron, acutely aware of how close his shoulder was to hers, how easily they moved together through the crowd. "I need to grab my luggage from baggage claim," Cameron said, placing a gentle hand on the small of her back to guide her through a particularly dense group of people. The casual touch sent warmth spreading through Jasmine's body. She told herself it was just the natural chemistry between them, nothing to overthink. But her racing heart suggested otherwise. At baggage claim, they stood watching the carousel spin, bringing bag after bag around in an endless loop. Other passengers grabbed their belongings and rushed off, but Jasmine found herself hoping Cameron's luggage would take its time arriving. Every extra minute felt precious. "There." Cameron pointed to a sleek black suitcase making its way around. He grabbed it effortlessly, then turned to her with a smile that made her stomach flutter. "Now we can get out of here. My car should be waiting." "Your car?" "I have a service I use when I travel. More reliable than rideshares." Of course he did. Jasmine tried not to feel intimidated by the reminder of just how different their worlds were. He must have sensed her hesitation because he stopped walking and turned to face her fully. "Hey," Cameron said softly. "I see that look. Whatever you're thinking, stop. Tonight isn't about money or status or any of that surface stuff. It's just you and me, two people who happen to sit next to each other on a plane. Okay?" She nodded, feeling some of the tension ease from her shoulders. "Okay. Good. Now come on. You're going to love this city." The drive through a dream. The black town car was waiting exactly where Cameron said it would be. The driver, a kind-looking man named James, greeted Cameron warmly and loaded their bags with practiced efficiency. As they pulled away from the airport, Jasmine pressed her face to the window, trying to take in everything at once. Even at night, San Francisco was beautiful. The city lights twinkled against the dark sky, and in the distance, she could see the illuminated towers of the Bay Bridge. "First impressions?" Cameron asked from beside her. "It's magical," Jasmine breathed. "I can't believe I've never been here before. We'll fix that. I'll show you all my favorite spots." He paused, then added more quietly, "If you want, that is." She turned from the window to look at him. In the dim light of the car, his features were softer, more vulnerable. This wasn't the confident millionaire anymore. This was just a man hoping she would stay. "I want," Jasmine said simply. The drive took them through the city, past Victorian houses painted in cheerful colors, steep streets that seemed to defy gravity, and neighborhoods that each had their own distinct personality. Cameron pointed out landmarks and shared stories, his enthusiasm infectious. "That's where I had my first business meeting that actually went well," he said, gesturing to a small cafe. "And that bookstore over there stays open until midnight. I've spent more late nights there than I care to admit." Jasmine filed away each detail, building a picture of Cameron's life in this city. A life that suddenly felt like it might have room for her in it. They drove up a winding hill, the houses getting larger and more spread out. When James finally pulled through an electronic gate and up a long driveway, Jasmine's breath caught. The house was stunning. Modern architecture with floor-to-ceiling windows, nestled into the hillside with views that must be breathtaking in daylight. But it was the warmth glowing from inside that struck her most. Despite its size, it looked like a home, not just a showpiece. Home and honesty. "Welcome," Cameron said as James helped with the bags. "The guest house is just through that path. But first, let me show you the main house. I want you to feel comfortable here." They walked through the front door into an open living space that managed to be both luxurious and inviting. Comfortable furniture, art on the walls that looked chosen with care rather than by a decorator, books everywhere. This was clearly a space where someone actually lived. "It's beautiful," Jasmine said, meaning it. "I was expecting something more cold and modern." Cameron laughed. "You mean like a tech bro bachelor pad?" "Maybe a little. I had that for about 6 months after I bought this place. All white furniture and minimalist everything. I hated coming home." He walked to the kitchen, opening the refrigerator. "Then I realized I was building what I thought successful people were supposed to have, not what I actually wanted. So I started over. Want something to drink? Water? Wine? I make a decent cup of tea if you're interested." "Tea sounds perfect." While Cameron put the kettle on, Jasmine wandered to the floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. The view was spectacular, light stretching out in every direction. She could see why he chose this place. "The guest house has the same view," Cameron said, coming to stand beside her with 2 mugs. "Even better, actually. It's closer to the edge of the property." They stood in comfortable silence, sipping their tea and watching the city breathe below them. Jasmine was hyper-aware of Cameron's presence, the way his arm almost brushed hers, the warmth radiating from his body. "Can I tell you something?" she asked quietly. "Always." "I'm terrified." The admission came out in a rush. "Not of you. But of how fast this is happening. Of how much I already feel for someone I just met. What if I'm making a huge mistake?" Cameron set his mug down and turned to face her fully. "Then you make a mistake. Jasmine, you just had the courage to leave everything familiar and fly to a new city. You can handle whatever comes next. But what if I'm using you to avoid dealing with my breakup? What if this is just a distraction? Is that what this feels like to you? A distraction?" She met his eyes and knew the answer immediately. "No. It feels real. Too real." "Then trust that." Cameron reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear with such tenderness that Jasmine's eyes stung with tears. "I'm not asking you to have all the answers tonight. I'm just asking you to stay open to the possibility that sometimes the universe puts people in each other's paths exactly when they need it most." Dinner and discovery. They ordered takeout from Cameron's favorite Thai restaurant, eating at his kitchen island while sharing more stories. Jasmine learned about his childhood in Portland, raised by a single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat. About how he had taught himself to code in the public library because they couldn't afford a computer at home. "She's the reason I work so hard to give back," Cameron said, his voice thick with emotion. "She never got to see me succeed. She died from cancer 2 years before I sold my first company." "Oh, Cameron. I'm so sorry. Some days it still feels impossible that she's gone. But I try to honor her memory by helping other kids like I was. Kids who are brilliant but don't have access to resources or opportunities." He smiled sadly. "She would have liked you." "Yeah. Definitely. She always told me to find someone who made me think, who challenged me to be better, who didn't let me get away with hiding behind my walls." "That's you, Jasmine." The weight of his words settled over them. Jasmine wanted to say something profound, something that matched the significance of this moment. But all that came out was, "I really want to kiss you right now." Cameron's eyes darkened with desire. "What's stopping you?" "I don't want to move too fast. I don't want this to be just physical." "It's not." He set down his food and moved closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. "I want to kiss you too. God, I've wanted to kiss you since you smiled at me on the plane. But I want more than that. I want to know everything about you. I want to hear about your dreams and your fears. I want to be someone you trust enough to be vulnerable with." Jasmine's heart pounded so hard she was certain he could hear it. This is insane. We just met. I know. This doesn't happen in real life. And yet here we are. Cameron's thumb traced her cheekbone. Tell me to stop and I will. Tell me you want to go to the guest house and get some sleep and we'll pretend this moment didn't happen. But if you feel even a fraction of what I'm feeling, please don't run from it. The kiss that changed everything. Jasmine couldn't have run if she wanted to. She was rooted to the spot, caught in the gravity of Cameron's gaze, feeling more alive than she had in years. I'm not running, she whispered. That was all the permission he needed. Cameron kissed her slowly, reverently, like she was something precious that might break. His lips were soft but sure, moving against hers with a tenderness that made her knees weak. Jasmine melted into him, her hands coming up to grip his shoulders for support. The kiss deepened gradually, Cameron's hand sliding into her hair while his other arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. There was desire in the kiss, yes, but also something deeper. Promise. Hope. The beginning of something that felt bigger than both of them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cameron rested his forehead against hers. Wow, he breathed. Jasmine laughed softly, feeling dizzy and grounded at the same time. Yeah. Wow. I don't want you to go to the guest house, Cameron admitted. I want you to stay here with me. But I also don't want to rush you or make you uncomfortable. So tell me what you need. She pulled back slightly to look into his eyes. I need you to understand that I'm fragile right now. That this morning I was in love with someone else, and even though that love was misplaced, the hurt is still real. I understand. And I need you to be patient with me while I figure out if what I'm feeling is genuine or just my heart trying to heal itself. I can do that. Cameron's smile was gentle. I've waited this long to feel something real. I can wait as long as you need. Jasmine kissed him again, softer this time. Thank you. Come on. He took her hand, interlacing their fingers. Let me show you the guest house. You need sleep, and I need to prove I can be a gentleman even when every part of me wants to keep you here. A place to rest. The guest house was perfect. Smaller than the main house but just as beautifully appointed, with its own kitchen, living area, and bedroom. The bed looked impossibly comfortable with its plush white comforter and mountain of pillows. But it was the view that stole Jasmine's breath. An entire wall of windows looked out over the city and the bay beyond. She could see the lights of Oakland sparkling across the water, ships moving slowly through the darkness, the world continuing on while she stood in this moment of transformation. It's perfect, she said. Cameron set her bag down near the closet. There are fresh towels in the bathroom. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen. And if you need anything else, I'm just a phone call away. He handed her a card with his number written on it. Or you can just walk over. The door's always open for you. They stood in the doorway, neither wanting to say goodbye even though it was past midnight and exhaustion was written on both their faces. Cameron, Jasmine started, not sure what she wanted to say. He saved her from having to find the words. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll explore the city, and I'll take you to brunch at the best place you've ever been. No expectations beyond that. Just two people enjoying each other's company. Okay? Okay. He kissed her forehead, a gesture so sweet and protective that Jasmine felt tears prick her eyes. Good night, Jasmine Brooks. I'm really glad you caught that flight. Me too. She watched him walk back up the path toward the main house, his figure silhouetted against the warm light spilling from the windows. When he reached the door, he turned back and waved, and she waved back, feeling like a teenager with her first crush. Reflection and hope. After Cameron left, Jasmine took a long, hot shower, washing away the stress and tears of the day. She stood under the spray and let herself feel everything. The grief of her ended relationship. The excitement of this new connection. The terror of not knowing what came next. The hope that maybe, just maybe, this could be the beginning of something extraordinary. When she finally climbed into bed, her phone buzzed with a text. Not from Tyler this time, but from Cameron. Just wanted to make sure you found everything okay. Sleep well, beautiful. Jasmine smiled, typing back quickly. Everything's perfect. Thank you for tonight. For everything. His response came immediately. The pleasure was entirely mine. See you tomorrow. She set her phone on the nightstand and turned off the light, snuggling into the impossibly soft pillows. Through the window, the city glowed like a promise. 12 hours ago, Jasmine had been heartbroken and lost. She had been running away from pain without knowing where she was running to. But now, lying in a guest house overlooking San Francisco, having spent the evening with a man who saw her for exactly who she was, Jasmine felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt hope. Hope that heartbreak didn't have to be the end of her story. Hope that the right person could appear when she least expected it. Hope that taking a chance on a last-minute flight might have been the best decision she ever made. Tomorrow would bring new questions and uncertainties. She would have to figure out where she was staying long-term, what she was doing with her life, how to navigate these feelings for Cameron while also healing from her breakup. But tonight, she let herself simply be grateful. Grateful for the courage that brought her here. Grateful for the stranger who became something more. Grateful for second chances and new beginnings and the possibility that sometimes, the universe did have a plan. As sleep finally claimed her, Jasmine's last thought was of Cameron's smile, his gentle touch, and the way he made her believe that being seen and valued wasn't too much to ask for. It was everything she deserved. And maybe, just maybe, it was only the beginning of their story.